All right, so today we're diving deep into U.S. foreign policy.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, we're going to be focusing on how the Biden administration has handled these two major global crises,
Okay.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the Israel-Gaza war.
Wow.
And we've got some amazing sources for this one.
Oh, cool.
We've got Bob Woodward's latest book.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some really insightful news articles and even some whispers from intelligence sources.
Nice. So we're going behind the curtain
Yeah, exactly.
into the situation rooms.
Exactly. And I think what's going to be really interesting as we go through all of this is
Yeah.
that you're going to see how decisions made months or even years before these crises
Right.
ended up having these huge ripple effects.
Yeah.
So to really kick things off,
Okay.
let's rewind all the way back to late 2021.
Okay.
So the world is still dealing with the aftermath of the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan,
Right. Which didn't go quite as planned.
to put it mildly. And at the same time, you've got all this intelligence coming in about Russia's intentions towards Ukraine.
Yeah. There's a lot of tension.
Lots of tension, lots of uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
And Biden makes a very clear statement early on. He says, quote,
Okay.
"I'm not sending U.S. troops to Ukraine."
Wow.
And this is months before the invasion even happens.
Right.
But it really shaped how the U.S. approached the conflict.
So was this decision influenced by the whole Afghanistan situation?
I think there's no question.
Yeah.
The memory of Afghanistan was very fresh in everyone's minds.
Right.
And there was this deep reluctance to get dragged into another long ground war.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But at the same time, there's all this intelligence piling up,
Yeah.
indicating that Putin was absolutely determined to invade.
Right.
And Jake Sullivan, Biden's national security advisor,
Mm-hmm.
he kept saying this one thing over and over again.
What's that?
He said, "We have to stay one step ahead of Putin."
Interesting.
And this leads to a really pivotal moment in November of 2021.
Okay.
Bill Burns, the CIA director,
Right.
he's sent on this top secret mission to Moscow.
Wow. Okay.
And he's carrying a letter from Biden to Putin.
Okay.
And the message is very blunt.
What did it say?
"We know you plan to invade."
Oh, wow.
So you can imagine this meeting, right?
Yeah.
Burns sits down with Patrushev, Russia's top security official.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just feel the tension in the room.
Oh, yeah.
Burns lays out all the evidence, the troop movements, the intelligence intercepts, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
And the crazy thing is,
Yeah.
Patrushev doesn't even bother denying it.
He doesn't.
No,
Right.
he's almost defiant. Like he believes that Russia has some inherent right to control Ukraine's fate.
Wow. So Putin's operating within a very tight circle.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Not really listening to anyone outside of it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And this sends shockwaves through the White House.
Yeah, I bet.
They realize they need to warn the world about what's coming.
So what do they do?
Well, they start declassifying intelligence.
Okay.
They're sharing it with allies, and they're really trying to get ahead of any false flag operations that Russia might use as an excuse to invade.
Oh, right. A false flag operation.
Just in case anyone listening needs a refresher.
Yeah.
Basically, it's when a country stages an attack
Right.
and makes it look like someone else did it.
Gotcha.
So the U.S. is trying to expose Russia's playbook
Yeah.
before they can even use it.
Trying to call their bluff.
Exactly. But not everyone was convinced.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who wasn't?
A lot of European leaders, like Macron and Schultz,
What?
they were very skeptical.
Yeah, you can kind of understand why.
I mean, they just couldn't believe that Putin would actually go through with a full-scale invasion.
Right. War in Europe seemed unthinkable.
Yeah, especially since a lot of European countries have close economic ties with Russia.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Then you've got Boris Johnson,
Okay.
the UK Prime Minister at the time.
Right.
He was convinced that Ukraine wouldn't be joining NATO anytime soon.
Okay.
But he was really frustrated with how Putin was manipulating the situation, using NATO expansion as an excuse for his own aggression.
Right, right.
Meanwhile, the U.S. is racing to arm Ukraine,
Yeah.
but Biden is being cautious.
How so?
Well, he doesn't want sophisticated U.S. weapons ending up in Russian hands if Ukraine falls quickly.
Right, makes sense.
So it's this delicate balancing act,
Yeah.
supporting Ukraine without triggering a wider war.
And I'm guessing there was some echoes of Afghanistan here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just thinking about all that equipment the Taliban seized.
Right. Those images were seared into everyone's minds.
Yeah.
They did not want to repeat those mistakes.
So what about the Abrams tanks?
Right. So initially there's a lot of hesitation
about sending them to Ukraine.
Yeah, some people saw it as too provocative,
Okay.
like a step that might push Russia to escalate. But then there's this interesting political maneuver. Germany was holding back on sending their Leopard tanks.
Okay.
And they wouldn't budge unless the U.S. agreed to send Abrams as well.
So it was a quid pro quo.
Exactly. So the U.S. eventually agrees.
Right.
But it was more about getting Germany on board
Right.
than a change of heart about the tanks themselves.
So even during a crisis like this, strategic decisions are influenced by politics.
Oh, yeah, always.
Wow.
So as January 2022 turns into February, the world is on edge.
Everyone's waiting,
knowing that something terrible is probably about to happen.
It was like this powder keg.
Yeah.
And everyone was just waiting for that spark.
Exactly. And then it happens February 24th, 2022. Early morning.
Right.
Putin launches a full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
Just like that, it all changes.
It's a moment that shifts everything.
All those warnings, all those assessments, they all become a terrifying reality.
And I can't imagine what was going through Zelensky's mind.
Right.
He's trying to rally his people.
Yeah. He's trying to get international support.
Right.
All while Russian forces are closing in on Kyiv.
It's just chaos.
And amidst all of this,
Yeah.
he makes this phone call to Biden.
Okay.
It's a chilling phone call.
What did he say?
Zelensky says to Biden, "I don't know when I will be able to talk to you again."
Wow.
Just the weight of that statement.
You can just hear
the danger he was in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And despite all the pressure to send in troops,
right.
Biden sticks to his commitment.
No U.S. troops in Ukraine.
Exactly. But he does give Zelensky this powerful reassurance.
What does he say?
He says, "If you ever want to talk to me, I'm here."
Wow. So even when military action is off the table, there's still that personal connection?
Absolutely. That personal diplomacy.
Yeah.
And we also get these glimpses into Biden's reaction.
Oh, okay.
He was furious.
With Putin, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. Calling him evil.
Wow.
But also expressing this kind of grudging admiration for the Ukrainian resistance. Right. They really put up a fight.
It was completely unexpected. Yeah. And it's just so different from how Trump viewed Putin.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
I mean, remember those comments at the start of the invasion?
Oh, yeah?
Calling Putin a genius?
Right, savvy.
It just shows you the fundamental shift in U.S. foreign policy.
Yeah, totally.
So while all of this is playing out,
yeah,
you've got the intelligence community working behind the scenes.
Right, trying to anticipate Putin's move.
They're trying to expose the lies.
Basically stay one step ahead.
Exactly.
Like that incident with the false flag operation.
Oh, yeah, that was chilling.
The intelligence suggested that Russia was going to stage this explosion in eastern Ukraine and blame it on the Ukrainians.
Yeah, using it as a pretext.
To justify sending in troops.
And they were even going to hire actors
to
play mourners at this staged funeral.
It's just unbelievable.
The cynicism.
The manipulation.
But by exposing the plot, the U.S. basically disarmed it.
And it really shows the importance of intelligence.
Absolutely.
Especially in this world of information warfare.
It's all about shaping the narrative.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of narratives, we have to consider how the Afghan withdrawal played into all of this.
Right, those images of the Taliban.
Walking around with U.S. military equipment.
It definitely emboldened Putin.
Oh, yeah, no question.
Bill Burns, when he was in Moscow, he heard this from a Russian official.
What was it?
The official said, "Here's a military force that's been supported by the U.S. for decades. They just collapsed."
It's chilling.
It really is.
Putin saw Afghanistan as a sign of weakness.
Yeah, and he completely underestimated Ukraine.
Their will to fight.
Their resilience.
He thought it would be a quick victory.
Just like Afghanistan.
And he was dead wrong.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
Fast forward to October 2023.
Okay.
The world is still grappling with the war in Ukraine.
Right.
And then, bam, the Israel-Gaza conflict erupts.
October 7th. Hamas launches this massive surprise attack on Israel.
It's horrific.
Massacres, hostage-taking, it's just chaos.
And Netanyahu declares war.
The whole region is on edge.
And right away, you see these different leadership styles.
Okay.
Netanyahu wants to strike back hard.
At Hamas, I assume?
Yeah, but potentially at Hezbollah too.
So, expanding the conflict beyond Gaza?
He thinks a preemptive strike is justified.
Wow.
But Biden urges caution.
Okay.
They had this tense phone call.
What did they say?
Biden assures Netanyahu, if they attack you,
the
United States will always stand up for Israel's security.
Okay.
But he also warns against rushing into a wider war.
It's that classic balancing act.
Yeah.
Supporting Israel, but also trying to prevent a larger conflict.
And this tension between the U.S. and Israel.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes even more clear when Israel thinks Hezbollah has launched an attack.
Wait, wasn't there some incident with paragliders?
Yeah, it turned out to be a false alarm.
Okay.
But for a while, Israel was ready to launch airstrikes.
Against Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Yeah.
They only realized their mistake at the last minute.
It's crazy how quickly things could have spiraled.
One miscalculation.
One piece of bad intel.
And the whole region could have been at war.
It really shows the stakes involved.
Absolutely.
So as the war in Gaza continues, the focus shifts to the humanitarian crisis.
And it sounds like the U.S. and Israel have very different perspectives.
Yeah, Blinken was horrified by Netanyahu's initial suggestion,
which was
to push all the Palestinians into Egypt.
It just ignores all the history.
Yeah, all the complexity.
Wow.
And Sisi, the Egyptian president, he was hesitant to open the Rafah crossing.
That's the only land route between Egypt and Gaza.
Exactly. It put him in a really tough spot.
So Blinken is now engaged in this frantic shuttle diplomacy.
Trying to secure humanitarian access.
Meeting with Arab leaders.
It's a minefield.
Of competing interests.
Absolutely.
But even amidst all of this chaos,
Yeah.
Biden takes a moment to express admiration for the restraint being shown in the West Bank.
Okay.
It might seem like a small thing,
Yeah.
but it really shows Biden's focus.
I'm preventing the conflict from spreading.
Exactly. And it's just wild to think this is all happening as the 2024 election is going on.
Oh, yeah. Talk about a backdrop.
Right. You've got a war in Europe. The Middle East is on fire.
Yeah.
And back home, things couldn't be more intense politically.
And our sources really give us some interesting insights into the Republican Party.
Okay, like what?
Well, we hear from Lindsey Graham.
Right, the senator from South Carolina.
Yeah, he's a longtime friend of Trump's, but he also really understands how the Republicans work.
Okay, so what does he say about all this?
Well, he's convinced that Trump is going to be the nominee. Even after being convicted of falsifying business records.
Wow.
Earlier this year.
So despite everything, Trump's still a major force.
It seems that way.
In the Republican Party.
Yeah. And what's even more concerning is that Graham worries that all this global turmoil might actually help Trump.
Oh, wow.
He even said this. He said,
What?
If there's a terrorist attack on the homeland, game, set, match for Biden.
Oh, wow. That's a scary thought.
Yeah.
It speaks to how...
to this anxiety?
Yeah, this anxiety that's bubbling under the surface in American politics.
Absolutely.
And how global events can really shake things up at home.
Yeah, for sure.
And then on top of all of this, you've got these concerns about Biden himself.
Right, his age?
His age, his reliance on teleprompters.
The attacks on Hunter.
It feels like this narrative is building.
That he's just too old.
Yeah, too old, too frail to handle another term.
And that narrative is gaining traction.
Yeah.
Especially with the Republicans pushing it.
And it all seems to come to a head
when?
In July 2024, when Blinken has this really difficult conversation with Biden.
Blinken, the Secretary of State.
Yeah, he's known Biden for decades.
Right.
And he urges Biden to really think about it.
To think about what?
About the toll another term would take.
On him, personally.
On him, on the country.
Wow.
He points out that the campaign is getting bogged down in these questions about Biden's age.
Right, right.
And it might be impossible to change course.
So what happens?
A few weeks later, Biden drops out of the race.
Wow. I remember that.
Huge story.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was really struggling.
With the demands of the job?
Yeah, it was a testament to his self-awareness.
Yeah.
That he was willing to put the country first.
To step aside.
Yeah, but then, just when it seems like things might be settling down...
What happens?
Trump is shot.
Oh my gosh, at a rally.
Yeah, in Pennsylvania.
That was terrifying.
It was a wake-up call about the divisions in this country, the potential for violence.
Yeah.
Trump survives, but it only makes him more determined.
So he comes back even stronger.
More aggressive, more defiant.
So now you've got Kamala Harris.
Yeah, going up against Trump.
Who's even more driven than before.
And all of this is happening with all this global uncertainty.
The war in Ukraine.
Gaza, fears of Iranian retaliation.
It's a lot.
It really is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are your main takeaways?
Well, I think the biggest one is how interconnected everything is.
Yeah.
Decisions in Washington have ripple effects around the world, and events overseas can totally upend our politics here at home.
It's like this giant web
Of cause and effect.
You can't predict anything.
Exactly.
And we've also seen how important leadership is.
Yeah, Biden's approach to Ukraine.
Yeah.
His handling of the Israel-Gaza conflict.
It's all about navigating these really complex situations.
Trying to avoid the worst outcomes.
Right. But we've also seen how recklessness can lead to disaster.
The Afghan withdrawal.
Yeah.
Trump's admiration for Putin.
Netanyahu's stance on Hamas.
It's a cautionary tale.
It really is.
So as we leave you with all of this to think about, here's a question for you.
Okay.
Given everything we've learned.
About the personalities, the pressures.
High-stakes decisions.
Yeah.
How do you think all of this will shape U.S. foreign policy going forward?
Especially in the Middle East.
It's a question we all need to be asking.
As we try to understand this complex world.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a journey.
It really has.